There are mysteries that most people will never understand. Mysteries that go beyond logic, beyond matter, beyond time. The cycle of reincarnations is one of them. And within the deepest teachings of Buddhism, there is a truth few know. There are clear signs that a soul is living its final existence on the earthly plane. And if you've noticed some of these signs, it's possible you're not here by chance. Since ancient times, Buddhist masters have taught that life doesn't begin at birth nor end at death. Existence is a cycle, a wheel that turns called samsara, where the soul is born, lives, dies, and is reborn until it learns everything it needs to break free. But few know there are indicators, clear signs that show when a soul is close to breaking this cycle, when it is, in fact, living its last life. These signs aren't physical. They're not marks on the body. They reveal themselves in behavior, worldview, sensitivity, and the way you perceive your own existence. And if you've ever felt different, out of place, disconnected from the common concerns of this world, maybe it's not your imagination. Maybe your soul is indeed in the final phase of its earthly journey. In this video, you'll discover the 9 powerful signs that Buddhist masters have taught for millennia and that reveal when a soul is fulfilling its final life cycle. Each sign brings a profound understanding that can forever change how you see who you are, what you're doing here, and what your true role is in this world. Stay with me until the end, because the last sign is the most powerful of all, and also the rarest. Few people on the planet carry this sign. And if you realize it's part of your life too, you can be sure. Your soul is no longer trapped in the wheel of suffering. It's already ready to break free. And if you want to understand this profound truth, give a like now, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. My soul seeks liberation. Because this journey begins with knowledge and ends with consciousness. Before we start, you need to understand something that goes beyond what any book, video, or lecture can teach you. These signs aren't legends, superstitions, or a list made for shallow curiosity. They are spiritual codes, codes that only appear when a soul has nearly completed its journey on the wheel of life. And if you feel you no longer belong to this world the way you once did, maybe you're much closer to liberation than you think. In Buddhism, nothing is by chance. Absolutely nothing. The life you lead, the people who cross your path, the challenges you face, all of it is part of a script your own soul chose before you were born. And when the soul begins to show signs that it's in its final incarnation, it does so in a way you can no longer ignore. It's a growing restlessness, a feeling of being out of the game, of no longer fitting into the patterns most accept without question. Maybe you've felt this. That strange perception that everything here feels somewhat artificial, that chasing money, status, conflicts, power, just doesn't make sense anymore. It's as if you see the world playing a game, and suddenly you realize you don't want to play anymore. This isn't depression, it's not sadness. It's the beginning of awakening. It's the echo of your soul telling you, your journey here is nearing its end. And if you feel this, know that it's no coincidence you're watching this video now. None of this is by chance. The simple fact that you're here, seeking this kind of knowledge, is one of the first signs that your soul is no longer trapped in the same cycle as most. You may not have noticed before, but the truth is, life has been sending you signs for much longer than you think. From now on, you'll discover the 9 signs that, according to Buddhist teachings, reveal that your soul is living its final existence on the earthly plane. And the more of these signs you recognize in yourself, the more certain you'll be that this life has a far greater purpose than simply being born, working, paying bills, and dying. That's just the surface. Your mission here is infinitely deeper. And it doesn't stop there, because there's a question almost no one asks, and that few masters answer clearly. What happens after the final incarnation? When the soul finally breaks free from the cycle of births and deaths, where does it go? What does it become? Is there a place, a state, a consciousness? If you've stayed this far, I promise, at the end of this video, I'll reveal exactly what Buddhist teachings say about this. So get ready, because what you're about to hear isn't just information. It's a key, a spiritual key that can unlock memories that have been dormant in your soul for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. And once you hear these signs, It's impossible to go back to being who you were before. The first sign is something most people never notice, and when they do, it startles them. It's called deep disconnection from the pleasures of the material world. It doesn't mean rejecting the world or hating life. In practice, it means the things that make most people feel alive simply don't make sense to you anymore. Money, fame, status, competition, consumption, all of it starts to feel empty, artificial, without purpose. You no longer feel the urge to play the game of vanity. The rat race for the car of the year, the perfect house, the trendy clothes, doesn't fulfill you. You may still live in the world, work, have possessions, but deep down, you know none of it brings real fulfillment. It's as if your soul looks at all this and says, this isn't for me. And this isn't arrogance. It's not superiority. It's spiritual evolution. While most chase a life to show off to others, to compete, to accumulate, those who carry this first sign feel a kind of silent emptiness whenever they try to fit into that system. And they often wonder, why am I like this? Why can't I care about the same things everyone around me values so much? The answer is here. Your soul has already learned that nothing external can fill what only consciousness can provide. This creates, at many moments, a feeling of being out of place in this world. You try to connect, to belong, but you realize it's like you're watching everything from the outside, observing a game you no longer play. And this disconnection isn't sadness, it's not giving up, it's clarity. It's the beginning of loosening the ties that bound you to the cycle of samsara, the cycle of reincarnations. What's most interesting is that, when this happens, other interests start to emerge. Your soul begins to seek spiritual knowledge, meditative practices, connection with nature, silence, solitude. What once seemed boring, like being alone, reading, reflecting, engaging with your inner world, now becomes essential. It's as if something inside you keeps saying, go inward. That's where the answers are. This sign also brings discomfort with superficial conversations, noisy environments, and the constant need people have to talk about consumption, gossip, comparisons, dramas, and complaints. All of this starts to exhaust you. And it's not because you think you're better, it's because, spiritually, your vibration no longer resonates with it. Your soul is at another stage, preparing for a much bigger step. When this sign appears, there's no going back. It's as if the soul is slowly untying the knots that kept it bound here. And deep down, this isn't a crisis. It's not sadness. It's liberation. And if you notice this in yourself, if you feel increasingly disconnected from what the material world offers, understand, this is one of the strongest signs that your soul is preparing for its final crossing on the wheel of life. The second sign emerges as a kind of painful awakening, a hypersensitivity to the suffering of the world. Suddenly, or often from a very young age, you start to notice the pain of people, animals, nature, the planet with greater clarity. And it's not just noticing, you feel it. You carry this pain within you, as if there's no separation between what's yours and what's another's. Situations that might have gone unnoticed before, like seeing someone mistreat an animal, hearing about an injustice, witnessing violence, cruelty, lies, greed, start to hit you in a way that paralyzes you inside. It's as if your soul no longer has a shield against collective suffering. And this isn't weakness. It's not fragility. It's evolution. It's expanded spiritual sensitivity. People trapped in the common cycle of incarnations can ignore suffering. They can live as if nothing's happening, as long as it doesn't affect them. But when your soul is in its last life, this changes. You can no longer just look away. The world's pain pierces you. Another's pain becomes your pain. And this often isolates you, pushes you away, makes you question if you're weak or too sensitive. What few know is that this sensitivity is, in fact, a spiritual gift. It's the soul showing it's no longer here to play the game of ego, indifference, or separation. It understands intuitively and deeply that everything is connected, that another's suffering was never separate from yours, that the world isn't made of me and them, but of a great us. And as heavy as this may seem, it's precisely this hypersensitivity that starts to transform you. It makes you want to help, heal, embrace, protect. Even if you don't know how, even if you lack the means or tools, you feel this urge. Your mere existence already carries the energy of healing. Your presence begins to make an impact. You become, without realizing it, a point of light in a world still trapped in the darkness of ignorance. At the same time, this sign forces you to set boundaries, because feeling everything all the time can drain you. And that's why those who carry this sign often distance themselves from toxic environments, superficial relationships, people living in the frequency of ego, gossip, or greed. You feel the need to protect yourself, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because you now understand you can't carry the entire world's weight alone. If you feel the world's pain pierces you, that your soul can no longer bear seeing injustice, cruelty, and suffering without being deeply affected, understand that this isn't a curse. This is one of the clearest signs that your soul has transcended many cycles. And now in this final crossing, it carries not only its own karma, but also the compassion and awareness that all pain is one, and that, deep down, we are all one. The third sign is what Buddhist masters call a constant feeling of not belonging. And this starts to manifest early, long before you understand anything about spirituality, karma, or reincarnation. It's as if, from the beginning, there's been a strange, uncomfortable, and often painful feeling inside you that this world isn't, and never was, truly your home. You try, you make an effort, you seek to fit in, be accepted, follow the norms, live a life like others. But deep down, something always tells you, I'm not from here. And this doesn't mean you reject the planet or hate life. On the contrary, you deeply love nature, animals, moments of connection, silence, care. But you don't understand, and never understood, the rules of the human game. Competition, ego, greed, conflicts, wars, falsehoods. All of this causes a mix of sadness and perplexity. You wonder, why do people live like this? Why do they hurt, betray, destroy each other, stray from their own essence? And the more you observe, the stronger this feeling of displacement grows. It's as if you're in a play, but you've realized the script no longer makes sense. This often leads you to seek isolation, not out of rejection or bitterness, but because deep down you know your true home isn't here. It's in another plane, another vibration, a state of consciousness far beyond this one. And this memory, which comes as a silent intuition, follows you every day. It's as if your soul whispers constantly, this is just the final stage. Hold on, you're almost home. This sign also manifests as discomfort with empty social obligations, shallow conversations, patterns that no longer make sense. Parties, events, gatherings centered on consumption, appearances, and competition simply drain you. While everyone seems to be having fun, you look around and ask, what am I doing here? Why doesn't this fulfill me like it does others? And what's most curious is that, alongside this feeling of not belonging, a deep connection to what's simple, true, and natural emerges. Silence calms you. Nature reconnects you. The sound of water, the smell of earth, the wind on your face. All of this brings a peace no city, no luxury, no material achievement can offer. It's as if, even in this world, you only feel truly alive when you reconnect with what lies outside society's norms. If you feel you've never fully belonged to this world, if you carry this strange sense of being a visitor, someone passing through, understand that this isn't a flaw. It's not a defect. It's your soul telling you it's no longer part of this cycle. You're here, yes, but only to conclude, to close the final lessons. Your true home isn't here. And deep down, you've always known that. The fourth sign is something many try to ignore, but when it appears, it's impossible to deny. It manifests as a natural rejection of conflicts, arguments, disputes, and any energy involving confrontation, competition, or emotional exhaustion. And this doesn't come from weakness or cowardice. It comes from awareness. You realize that, unlike most, you simply don't have the energy anymore to compete, prove, justify, or engage in wars that, deep down, lead nowhere. Family arguments, workplace rivalries, gossip, intrigues, demands, competitions. All of this starts to feel not only draining, but profoundly pointless. Your soul knows, in its deepest core, that these clashes are products of the ego, that they're expressions of an immature consciousness, still trapped in the game of separation, the illusion of me against them. And when you feel this, you automatically start to distance yourself from these environments, these people, these situations. It's not escape, it's protection. It's wisdom, it's spiritual self-care. At the same time, an almost uncontrollable desire emerges to maintain peace, create harmony, calm environments, and dissolve tensions. You become, without meaning to, the person who arrives and shifts the vibration of a place, who brings calm to what was chaotic, who offers listening when everyone just wants to talk, who brings light where most only cast shadows. And often, this happens without you even noticing. It's your soul acting far beyond your conscious intent. But it's important to understand that this sign also carries challenges. Because the more you distance yourself from conflicts, the more you realize you can no longer tolerate environments and people who live permanently in the frequency of chaos. And this often isolates you. It makes you choose to be more alone, in your own space, in your silence, not out of rejection, but out of the need to preserve your vital energy. This rejection of conflicts also makes you develop a much more compassionate outlook. You start to see that those who live in arguments, disputes, aggression are, in fact, deeply lost, wounded, and unconscious. And this no longer sparks anger, it sparks compassion. You understand that everyone is at their own level of consciousness, their own point in the journey, their own process, and it's no longer your role to try to change anyone. If you notice that your energy no longer aligns with arguments, fights, toxic environments, or draining relationships, if you feel an almost physical rejection of anything involving competition, demands, or drama, understand. This is your soul showing you it's already transcended this game. And this is, without a doubt, one of the clearest signs that your journey in this cycle is nearing its end. The fifth sign is the emergence of an almost uncontrollable need to seek spiritual answers. And this search isn't casual curiosity. It's not about religion, dogma, or belonging to a group. It's an inner calling, a deep, urgent, often anguished thirst to understand who you are, why you're here, and what the true meaning of existence is. While most people are busy solving material problems, building careers, accumulating possessions, or chasing status, those who carry this sign simply can't live on the surface anymore. It's as if none of it has flavor, color, or meaning anymore. The soul starts pushing you inward, deeper, beyond what the eyes can see. And this search isn't easy. You start compulsively reading about spirituality, life after death, reincarnation, meditation, consciousness, universal laws, quantum physics, ancient wisdom. And the more you discover, the more you realize you know little, that existence is an infinite mystery, and your soul is here precisely to cross this mystery, not to flee from it. This spiritual thirst also makes you uncomfortable with everything shallow, superficial, or trivial. Empty conversations start to irritate you. Consumerist, materialistic, or vain environments suffocate you. You feel you need more. Silence answers connection, and you often start to isolate yourself, not out of sadness or loneliness, but because deep down you understand the real dialogue you need to have is between you and your own soul. And the more you search, the more you realize the answers were never outside. They weren't in books, religions, or gurus. They were always within, in moments of silence, in meditation, in connection with nature, in the simple act of being present, conscious, and whole in the here and now. That's when everything starts to make sense. That's when the game of existence changes. But this search isn't comfortable. It hurts, because it often distances you from those you love, isolates you from environments that once seemed normal, puts you on a path that, from the outside, seems lonely. But deep down, this isn't a path of loneliness. It's a path of return, back to home, back to your own essence, back to the consciousness that's been dormant for entire lifetimes. If you feel this thirst, this hunger, this urgency to understand who you are, to break free from cycles of pain, to stop spinning in the wheel of suffering, know that this isn't by chance. It's not a spiritual trend. It's not a phase. It's your soul telling you, with all the silent strength it has, that you're nearing the end of your journey here, that this is your last life. The sixth sign emerges when you realize that everything happening in your life, absolutely everything, is in fact a direct consequence of the choices, thoughts, actions, and vibrations you've been emitting, not just in this life, but across all your existences. And this perception is no longer a nice theory. It becomes a truth you feel in your body, your chest, your soul. Suddenly, you start to clearly see the movements of karma. The responses are almost instantaneous. You think, and something happens. You feel, and life delivers it. You choose, and the consequence arrives sometimes in hours, days, no longer years or decades. The time between cause and effect shrinks drastically. It's as if the universe is saying, you already know how this works. Now, there's no ignoring it. And this makes you understand you were never a victim of anything. It was never bad luck, never good luck, never punishment. It was, and always will be, just the reflection of what your own soul chose, created, and nurtured. This perception pulls you out of the victim role and places you irreversibly in the role of co-creator, of being fully responsible for your own journey. And that changes everything. But this awareness also hurts, because it forces you to look back at all the choices, mistakes, wounds, pains, and understand that everything, absolutely everything, was necessary. It was learning. It was a spiritual contract. There's no more guilt, no more regret. Only acceptance, understanding, and a deep desire to do differently, to close cycles, to clear the last remnants of karma still binding you here. From this point, you start living completely differently. Every word, every thought, every action becomes sacred. You understand that everything you do, even the smallest gesture, reverberates in the invisible field of existence and comes back to you, sometimes subtly, sometimes like a giant wave. And that's why those who carry this sign naturally become quieter, more careful, more intentional. Not out of fear of karma, but because they now understand how it all works. And the stronger this awareness grows, the more you feel you can't waste energy on what doesn't build, heal, or elevate. You start choosing your words, relationships, places, thoughts better. Everything becomes a conscious, clean choice aligned with what your soul truly wants to live. And this, little by little, disconnects you from the last threads keeping you tied to samsara, the cycle of reincarnations. If you feel your entire life has become a perfect mirror of what you vibrate, think, and do, if you notice the universe responds almost immediately, that lessons come quickly, that karmic returns are clearer than ever, then understand, your soul is no longer here to accumulate karma. It's here to finalize, to clear, to close. And this is one of the clearest signs you're living your final turn on this wheel. The seventh sign manifests as an uncontrollable desire to serve, to help, to ease another's pain, to make the world a slightly better place, even if just around you. And what's most curious is that this doesn't come from obligation or a need for approval. It comes as a natural expansion of your own consciousness. It's as if suddenly you understand there's no more meaning in living just for yourself. You start to realize that helping, healing, teaching, listening, supporting, embracing, whether through big actions or small gestures, is in fact what your soul most wants to do. And it doesn't matter if you don't have great resources, a platform, or fame. You realize that serving isn't about quantity, but about presence, intention, energy. And this desire to serve comes with a profound shift in values. What once seemed a priority, earning more, achieving more, being more, simply loses importance. What fulfills you now is knowing that in some way you're bringing relief, clarity, peace, or comfort to someone. Even if it's just one person in one moment on one day, that's enough. And it brings a kind of fulfillment nothing in the material world ever did. What's most curious is that often this desire to serve comes without knowing how. You don't know exactly what to do or where to start. But you feel almost physically that your life needs to be useful for something greater. And little by little, the answers start to come. Opportunities appear. People seek you out. Paths open. Because when the intention is pure, the entire universe conspires to let your energy of service manifest in the world. This sign also makes you realize you're no longer interested in competing, proving anything to anyone, or placing yourself above others. On the contrary, you feel we're all equal, all suffering, learning, trying, failing, succeeding. And this makes you more humble, more empathetic, more available, not out of obligation, but because that's how your soul vibrates now. On the other hand, this energy of service also makes you understand your own limits. You realize you can't carry everyone or save those who don't want to be saved. And you learn over time to offer help, but without losing yourself. To give love, but without erasing yourself. To hold light, but without burning out to the point of dimming your own. Because you now understand that serving isn't sacrificing, it's aligning. If you feel your greatest desire today is simply to be useful, to be light, to be a bridge, to be a channel. If you feel your life needs a greater purpose beyond yourself, understand that this isn't a phase. It's not fleeting sensitivity. It's your soul showing you with utter clarity that it's no longer here to get lost in its own ego. It's here to finalize, to serve, to leave a trail of light before it goes, because this is your final turn. The eighth sign emerges when, almost inexplicably, you start to develop a deep awareness of impermanence. You realize very clearly that nothing is fixed, nothing is guaranteed, nothing is eternal in this world. Everything is born, grows, transforms, dies. And this doesn't scare you. On the contrary, this perception frees you. While most people live fleeing the idea of change, aging, loss, or death, those who carry this sign simply understand, naturally, that impermanence is the only constant truth of life. And with this, you stop clinging. Stop trying to control everything. Stop fighting the flow of existence. And you finally start to flow with it. This awareness changes everything. You start to value what truly matters. A sunset, a genuine smile, a hug, a deep conversation, a moment of silence, the smell of rain, the sound of the wind. Everything gains immense importance because you understand none of it will last forever. And precisely because of that, every moment becomes sacred. At the same time, you start to let go. You let go of people who don't want to stay. Let go of expectations that only cause suffering. Let go of the need to be right, to be understood, to be recognized. Let go of control. Let go of attachment. Because you understand, in the deepest part of your soul, that everything that comes to teach. And everything that goes because it's fulfilled its role. This perception brings a peace most don't understand. People look at you and think you don't care anymore about things. But that's not it. You've just stopped caring about what doesn't have real weight. You don't despair over small crises. You don't panic over what's out of control. Because you know that in the end, everything passes. It always has. It always will. And this leads you to live very differently. You become more present, more grateful, more aware. You learn to savor simple moments, laugh more, breathe deeper, look into eyes. Because you truly understand that life is made of moments, and the only thing we have is the now. The rest is illusion, projection, memory, or expectation. The now is real. If you feel with increasing clarity that nothing belongs to you, that nothing is fixed, that everything is always changing, and that this doesn't spark fear but peace, know that this is one of the deepest signs that your soul has transcended the attachments of matter, and that now in your final life, it only wants to live what truly matters, and let go of everything that isn't essential. The ninth sign is the emergence of an unshakable certainty, often without logical explanation, that you no longer fear death. And note, this doesn't mean you want to die or devalue life. On the contrary, it means that, in the deepest part of your consciousness, you've understood that death never existed, and that in truth it's just a transition, a change of clothes, a return home. While most people live terrified of the idea of the end, fleeing it, ignoring it, avoiding any thought about it, those who carry this sign simply accept it, not as a sad resignation, but as mature, spiritual, liberating wisdom. You understand that life and death are two sides of the same coin, and that your essence, your consciousness, is eternal, unchangeable, indestructible. This awareness completely changes your relationship with everything. You stop living in the desperation to enjoy life at all costs, to consume endlessly, to chase empty pleasures, to distract yourself to avoid thinking about the end. On the contrary, you start to live much more presently, more intensely, more authentically, because you know every moment is unique and life doesn't end. It just changes form. And curiously, this sign brings a peace most people can't even imagine is possible. It's a peace that doesn't come from outside, not from circumstances, not from security, money, or others' love. It comes from within, from a silent certainty etched in your soul that everything is in its right place. Everything follows the perfect flow of the universe, and that you are already at peace with your own existence. This lack of fear makes you live with more lightness. You let go of control, let go of anxieties, let go of the need to hold on to people, things, situations. Because you know everything is transitory. Nothing is fixed. Everything that's born one day returns to its source. And this isn't sad. It's liberating. It's true spiritual freedom. And even deeper, you start to realize that this life, this final crossing, is no longer about conquering or accumulating. It's about finalizing, clearing, closing karmic contracts, returning what doesn't belong to you, forgiving what needs to be forgiven, releasing who needs to be released. It's about leaving this plane with a clean consciousness, a light energy, a soul ready to not need to return. If you feel the idea of death no longer terrifies you, if you realize your existence doesn't end here, that you're something infinitely greater than this body, this name, this story, understand that this isn't imagination. It's not illusion. It's your soul's own voice telling you, with utter clarity, you're in your final life, and you're ready, far more ready than you think. Few people truly understand what it means to be in the final life, because this isn't the end. It's not loneliness. It's not disappearing. Quite the opposite. Being in the final life is, in fact, reaching the highest level of expansion a consciousness can achieve in this universe. It's crossing the finish line. It's concluding with honor, with wisdom, with light, a journey that spanned hundreds, perhaps thousands of existences. Buddhist masters explain that when the soul breaks the wheel of samsara, it doesn't vanish. It doesn't fade. It rises. It returns to the purest, freest, most powerful state a consciousness can experience. It's when you stop being a prisoner of the cycle of pain, attachment, fear, and illusion, and become pure freedom, pure expanding consciousness, a limitless being, without boundaries, without suffering. The soul doesn't disappear. It simply stops being conditioned by the laws of matter, time, or space. It becomes a being of pure light, with full awareness of who it is, where it came from, and its true purpose in the cosmos. You're no longer a being trapped in a body. You become an architect of the universe itself, a conscious creator, an active spark in the infinite field of existence. And this state isn't empty. It's not absence. It's fullness. It's expansion. It's absolute potency. Imagine living a life without pain, without fear, without lack, without doubt, where there's no more separation between you and the whole, where there's no more suffering, anxiety, or need. Your consciousness vibrates in pure love, in peace and clarity, and in total connection with everything that exists. At this level, the soul no longer needs to reincarnate because it no longer needs to learn through pain, attachment, or physical experience. It becomes an agent of light, healing, and transformation in the subtle planes. It can choose to manifest if it wishes. It can assist other consciousnesses. It can act as a guide, protector, or instructor in higher planes. You start to live in a state of cosmic service, unconditional love, and spiritual contribution. Nirvana isn't an end. It's the crowning of a soul that's completed its mission in matter. It's the ultimate realization. It's the victory of consciousness over ignorance, over suffering, over illusion. It's crossing the finish line with the certainty that every pain, every life, every tear, and every challenge was worth it because it brought you here, to freedom, to the highest state of existence. And this awareness brings a feeling no human language can fully describe. It's the true sensation of being home, of being whole, complete, fulfilled, at peace, fully connected with the whole, with the source, with the essence of everything that exists. It's when the soul stops searching, because it realizes it's always been, from the start, everything it was seeking. So if you recognize the signs, if something inside you vibrated with every word, if you felt this isn't a theory, but an ancient memory, a truth etched in your own soul, understand, you're not nearing the end. You're nearing the beginning of your freest, most powerful, most authentic existence. You're finally coming home. And that is the greatest achievement a soul can experience. If you've stayed this far, that already says a lot about who you are. Most people don't even notice the signs. They don't want to. They keep rushing on autopilot, living only on the surface of existence, never asking what they're really doing here. But not you. You stayed. You listened. You felt. And that already sets you apart from most. It already shows your soul is indeed at a very different stage. much more awake, much more conscious, much closer to liberation. And now I ask you, directly and sincerely, how many of these signs did you feel? How many resonated in your chest, like memories you don't know where they come from, but that give you chills, move you, and make you realize that deep down you've always known, because that's the truth. Your soul already knows. It was just waiting for you to remember. None of this information reached you by chance. Nothing in this universe happens by chance. If you're here, if these words found you, it's because there's a calling from the depths of your own essence, a calling for you from today onward to stop living on autopilot, to stop disconnecting from who you really are, and to finally start honoring your journey, your story, your mission. You're not here just to pay bills, work, survive, and wait for time to pass. You're here to conclude, to finalize, to close this cycle with consciousness, with honor, with truth. You're here to clear the last karmas, close the last contracts, release the last weights, and finally cross the finish line with your head held high, your soul light, and the certainty that you're coming home. And what's most incredible, you're not alone on this journey. There are many like you, ancient souls, old souls, wise souls scattered across the world who are awakening, who are feeling the same signs, who are remembering at the same time that this life is the last, and that after it there's no more pain, no more suffering, only freedom, only light, only fullness. So I invite you now to make a simple but extremely powerful gesture. Write in the comments below, I felt the signs. Write it as a commitment, as an act of recognition, as a declaration to the universe, to your soul, to your spirit. Let it be recorded that you noticed, that you recognized, that you remember, and that from today onward, you choose to live your final life consciously, intentionally, and aligned with who you truly are. And if this message touched your soul, opened your mind, sparked something within you, then give a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and share this video with those you feel need to hear it. Here, we don't talk about curiosity. We talk about truth, about awakening, about consciousness, about liberation. And if you want to keep receiving content that nourishes your soul, this is the place. Because in the end, life was never about accumulating, never about competing, never about proving anything to anyone. Life always was and always will be about remembering who you are, about breaking free, about coming home. And if you've made it this far, know, you're not at the end of the line. You're at the beginning of your freest, lightest, most powerful, and most authentic existence. And that is just the start of your liberation.